We are back in Pune, having made sure Messi got to the final. No guesses for who we are rooting for in the final. And I was almost not going to actually do this video, but yeah, just we want to add our thoughts to some of the stuff about Qatar and how was it as a host, etc. And we've been to a few World Cups. I think you can kind of make up how many each one of us has been to. And I want to begin by kind of throwing open a question. Where would you rank Qatar amongst all the other World Cups that you've been to?
Right. So the ones that I remember so well, I would go third.
Okay.
I mean, the last in a way.
Oh,
I would unfortunately have to agree in a sense. I think yes, it definitely comes last after Brazil, Russia.
Yeah, I think for me as well, out of all the World Cups that I can remember, it would probably come last versus the others.
I remember all the ones I've been to, this is my seventh, and Qatar is beyond doubt the worst mistake in terms of a World Cup being awarded. And like I said, I wasn't even sure I wanted to do a video talking about the negatives because we had fun at the end of the day. The four of us would have fun in Mars. That's not a problem. You can put us on the ISS as well. But there's so many misconceptions or wrong perspectives being thrown around that, especially now with Infantino stating it's the best World Cup ever, it's almost kind of compelled me to come up and say, look, we want to provide our perspective. Now, this is our family perspective. We normally go for a fair bit of time. We go and spend 16 days to 20 days to 22 days at a World Cup. We enjoy soaking in the local culture. We enjoy meeting fans. We enjoy watching more group stage games than latter half games because then you get to see more fans, interact with more people, interact with the locals. We love doing kind of all of that. And this time, it's been a very different experience. Uh, what we experienced will not match up to the experience you had if you were a celeb, because Qatar went all out to woo celebs and kind of present a certain kind of picture to the world. It won't match up if you went in just for 3 or 4 days and saw a couple of games, because there's a difference in what you see if you're there for 2 or 3 days versus what you see if you're for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I think the other exception would probably be if you were super rich.
Yeah.
It would be a totally different one.
Yes.
So I think you have to take our family's perspective as what we have seen, what we have experienced, with no bias at all before we went in. And, we went in thinking we'll have a great time. At the end, we've had a great time, but Qatar didn't make it easy. Is just the way I would like to express it. Yeah?
Yes.
Now, let's again talk positives.
Let's get into it.
Let's get into it and let's talk positives. What did you think were the positives of this World Cup?
Can I start?
Yep.
Yeah, go for it.
So yeah, the directions, the volunteers who were there to guide you all the way to the metro, to the buses, all the way to the stadium. They were like big in number, and they were all like really there, streamlining the whole process. So it was all peaceful, being guided.
I think
Very well done.
The volunteers have been the superstars of World Cups since I can remember.
Yes.
Whether it's all the way back to Korea, to Brazil, to this thing, and if Avni agrees,
It's true.
it's true. So the volunteers have always been the superstar, but nowhere did I find the difference between the volunteer attitude and the disparity. This time it was the volunteers who kind of held the glue together in a sense. They kind of, yeah. So completely agree
You had
with
people
Ritul.
making songs.
Yes.
Metro, this
way.
It was fun.
Yeah.
And I think
Breaking out into a rap kind of a
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then they had fun with it. That was good. But extension of that, I think, was just how I think they had organized things quite well. They made it quite pretty, I think, which you can appreciate as a person visiting. And the stadiums were well. I mean, the routes and the scenery, the places that they build up, even the purpose-built places, were very nicely done. They built good structures around even outside of the stadiums to try and give a good atmosphere in that sense. I think they did that well. Pre-show things, nicely done. I thought that was good. Made an effort.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, the designs of the stadiums were beautiful. I think they did a very good job of kind of representing some of their culture. Like you had some stadiums designed after local tents, after their local hats. A Qatari boat, Al Janoub was designed after like a fishing boat. So I thought that was very good. And then for me, the saving grace of the World Cup, it was the football itself. I mean, this World
Oh,
Cup has
yes.
provided us with some sensational football and some
Oh, yes.
crazy upsets.
I have been the most involved. I have loved every game. I mean, given that I'm not so much into it like these guys, I've
But
thoroughly
it's
enjoyed.
it's been some crazy football.
Yes.
Well, the football is no thanks to
Qatar.
Qatar
Yeah.
or FIFA. It was just
It was
football.
That was
It was
football.
just, yes.
First time 6 continents had representatives in the round of 16, etc., etc. But again, the football was brilliant.
Yes.
Fans, whoever came, did create their own
Their own
atmosphere,
answer, absolutely.
and everything was spanking new. The metro, the stadium, you could like smell the leather or the plastic or stuff like that. In that sense, it was all created for the World Cup. It was all created to put up a show, and that's what they did. Qatar, right? Put
Air
up a show,
conditioned, if you
air
please.
conditioned stadium with
Yeah.
like everybody coughing, sneezing, having a
Even
cold.
the
But
teams.
yeah, so
Feeling
right
it.
now apparently even the
Yeah,
teams,
even
right?
the French team
The
has
French
the
team had a
flu.
problem. So yeah, everything has pros and cons, right? Now, we've kind of discussed what we liked.
Negative.
Top thing on what you didn't like.
So yeah, I mean, I think there was a level of you can't really feel all that comfortable or celebratory as you would in a World Cup when you're so paying attention so much to the rules and the regulations that keep changing and you don't really know the rules and limitations of. So you don't really feel all that comfortable to go and have fun. And I think that's just, it kind of ruined that for me.
Yeah.
There was this. So there's a guide which is sent out to all FIFA fans who are attending the World Cup.
Yes.
This was a nice mammoth guide which had detailed things about where you can stay, how you can travel, the stadium, etc. And Infantino and the head of the Secretary General of the Supreme Committee for Organizing from Qatar had statements in there about the warmth and hospitality
Of the Qatari.
of the Qatari people. I don't think we felt any of that. I think they forgot to kind of distribute that amongst the people organizing at ground level. Completely forgot because we didn't see any of that. We just saw the Qatari people kind of stuck with who they are, determined to impose their culture, determined to impose their rules, determined to impose their thought processes on whoever came. This is after having them invited us to come and visit, right? But they just wanted to kind of it be a showcase for Qatari wealth, which it became. But we didn't feel the warmth,
And
the
not
hospitality.
only Qatari wealth, but like global wealth. Like like that said, if you had the money, I'm sure you got a taste of the Qatari hospitality.
Yeah.
But I think for regular
Yeah.
fans, it was really lacking because you see, we walk through like some of the fan villages and those the fan festival areas built for like residents, and you can see that's like they kind of skimped out for the masses in that sense. It became a show for the elite in
For
that
the
sense.
no smiling faces. I mean, the vibrancy. You go. My hackles would stand up everywhere I went. Like I said, I got involved with the games this time for the first time because of the quality of football. But other places, I mean, I would get sucked in with that vibrancy, that my hackles would stand up. I would be like, go with the sea of that that feeling. Even now,
Collective.
I'm in goosebumps thinking about those World Cups. But now, no smiling face.
I think that was particularly
Nothing to pull me in. I was a little on tenterhooks.
Yeah.
entering the stadium.
particularly
So
for the security guards.
I think like building on that point, that feeling of always being on edge is
Yes.
something that I remember quite clearly. I mean, yes, once you get into the stadium and you're kind of, watching the football, you're a bit at ease.
Yes.
But you still see like a sea of security guards, and if anything is out of place, oh, you can't stand there, oh, you can't take a picture there, keep moving.
So
You know,
these
what
are
are you
these
doing?
are jerseys designed by Anmam, right?
Yeah.
And we do this for literally last 3 World Cups. We've done this, and I've had a security guard tail me for about 15 minutes, looking at the back, and I'm wondering what's happening. And this is outside the stadium, and then come and literally bring the face this close, looking at the flags, wondering if maybe I have a rainbow symbol somewhere hidden here. And
Seriously.
That there were instances where, for example, wearing
this
wearing
jersey.
this hoodie, like they would
Yeah.
like unroll the sleeve and check the flag, and then they would lift up the hoodie to check the t-shirts below.
I've had that too. They
And
literally
in
lift
fact,
it up.
like I was worried about wearing this hoodie, which is plain, just because it has that symbol over there, because you never know.
And I was scared to wear like rainbow socks under my jeans at one point. And I think my entire thing, then coming back to that comfort and where you've invited people to your country, you have to have a certain open mindedness about that. Just like with the alcohol, you understand that this is a big part of football. People all over are going to be queer. You can't stop that. And so to first say that rainbow is allowed and you can express yourself however, and then start being so austere and going in and checking flags on a
Everything.
shirt
Yeah.
Yeah.
is ridiculous. So that did not help me feel comfortable. And then you don't even really know the limitations with this, right? Is that
Where do you
for
draw the
being
line?
yeah, where do you draw the line when it can be promoting queerness? For some people that can be a person having short hair or wearing a lot of makeup. It's, you don't really know, so I would never entirely felt comfortable there, and I don't think that's fair.
I think what then rubbed salt into the wounds were like the displays in the stadium.
No discrimination.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Every game
For
began with a
gender
whole thing
sexual
saying no
orientation.
discrimination.
Yeah.
And then you look at
And
that
you're
and you're like,
thinking, seriously?
really?
I
What
mean,
happened?
what?
Who allowed that?
I do think that this no smile thing, and I've never seen as much security, by the way.
Yeah.
I think the ratio here would have been probably, one per 3 or 4 spectators, one security guard. And there are multiple tiers of security. There was somebody who's a private security event organizer, then someone who's a stadium security, then there's the police, and then there was bronze, silver, and gold security. I mean, it was insane the number of security people we saw.
I think
None
very
of them,
early
by the
on-
way, had been trained in terms of how to smile. None of them had been trained that, look, you're not observing a convention of prisoners. You are, observing a fan festival in a sense.
Yeah.
They were
it's a
they were
celebration
literally
of
yeah.
football.
None of that was visible, present. None of them got the memo that said Qatari hospitality or warmth. None of that was visible throughout. And
Yeah,
we've never seen that in any. I mean, South Korea, they were so happy and proud to be ambassadors. Each individual was proud to be an ambassador of the World Cup. South Africa, uh, Brazil, oh my God.
Russia.
You don't even want to begin on Russia. I mean, the whole Haya card thing was a copy of what
The
Russia
fan
did with
ID.
fan
Fan
IDs.
IDs, yes.
And by the way, this is all right now. We are discussing kind of soft factors. Anwam and I have spent and detailed a whole video on costs. I mean, what was that
Yeah.
about? Why did you make it the most expensive World Cup possible? If you've spent, apparently Qatar has spent 220 billion. That's the number being floated around. Most people say it's at least double that, by the way, that they've actually spent, because everything is new, as we pointed out. The metro is new, the stadium are new, uh, being dismantled
Accommodation.
and being sent. Most accommodation is new, which we stayed in as well. Now, with all of that, if you spent all of that, why not just spend that little bit extra and make it cheap? Why you first centralize all accommodation on one website, then make sure it's at least 5 to 10 times what the normal cost is. I mean, we've been paying for a hotel $500 to $600 per night per room, which is insane. I mean, we've never paid anything kind of close to that before. And So why? I mean, and I was kind of doing rough math in my head, which I love to do. You'll make a billion that way. If a million people spend $1,000, you make a billion. When you spend 500 billion, what was the attempt here?
I think they decided very early on that they wanted to make it like the most secure World Cup and like the least fun and fan friendly World Cup out of all
Yeah.
of them. And I think in a way this became a great opportunity for Qatar to try and put themselves on the map. I mean, there's been a lot of talk, and there've already been so many controversies, and every day you hear a new thing that, oh, they spent money on this, they tried to do that. I think they've tried their absolute best to kind of show the world what Qatar is like,
What Qatar can do with money.
what can be done with a lot of money as well. And I just don't think they've succeeded. I think the football has done a much better job of like speaking and promoting like what FIFA can be, but I
What
just
football can
what
be.
football can be. But I just feel like Qatar and the FIFA
FIFA.
thing just it doesn't work.
It's
I,
not a
I
good
think like
match.
Qatar
One big
Qatar does its best to like say, oh, FIFA's great, and FIFA's like happy to like say, oh yeah, Qatar's the best, it's amazing, you should come here.
Yeah, it's like a mutual admiration
Yeah,
society
but
right now.
Yes.
I think both are just happy because that's where the
Because
money
they're
is.
living in
Us.
ivory towers. And I mean, my point is, Infantino, for example, has for me turned out to be the most spineless FIFA chief possible because he became an Arab, he became a migrant worker, he became several things. But you know what's the one thing that the person didn't become? Is the voice of the football fan, and which
Right.
is, by the way, supposed to be his job. He became the voice of the sponsors. He became the voice of people who are coming in on flights and celebrities and meeting and etc etc. But for the football fan, he really let all of us down. The people who come with their own hard-earned money to watch this festival of football. It was the most expensive World Cup. There were regulation changes till the last minute. Nowhere did FIFA put its foot down and say, look, this is an integral part of football, don't mess with it. It's okay to say, look, no beer in the stadium. And there's pros and cons to that. But if every World Cup so far has had beer at the stadium, for you to make that change, surely somebody, the voice of the fans, should have been consulted. And it's interesting that FIFA just doesn't have such a voice on its board. They take these decisions
I think
based on just money,
yeah. So
economics.
I think what comes to mind as well is that like the people in charge, or like especially the Qatari team and let's say Infantino, they just didn't have the football fans' interests at the center of the tournament and organizing it, which is
Yeah.
what it should be. I think it was more about, oh, how do we maximize profits, or how do we make it this extravagant show again, like I said, to show to the world that this is beautiful and this is what we've done. We're welcoming everybody, but in the end they forgot about the most crucial part of the World Cup, which is the fans.
It's like they ran a PR campaign
Yeah.
for Qatar, for FIFA, but it was all done at the expense of the normal fans.
Yeah.
And everything was expensive. Food was expensive. Uh, Alcohol, don't even get me started. I mean, something that costs 100 was being sold for 800.
think-
Rooms that are for $100 are being sold for $500 to $1,000. I mean, insanity.
I think at the end of it, what happens is that the thing that you've gone for, where it's this celebration where all these people from all these different places have come to support their own country and to basically have fun,
Enjoy with each other. Yeah.
It's you just had this kind of more shallow, muted feeling all throughout. I think that's the best I can say in the
Yeah.
most nice way I can say it, honestly, and in the way that it generally that's just what comes to your mind. It was just damp mostly, and it does depress you a bit because you've
I think,
experienced
yeah.
others that was so
I
much
think
more.
building up on that point as well is like when I think back now. I mean, it's been a day. I can still remember, and I think we all can remember moments from Brazil and Russia where we had these amazing moments with, like local fans and local people, whether it was on a train, whether it was in a remote village where we're watching a football game. Unfortunately, here, we can't remember a single fun incident or meeting or conversation we had with the local.
It was
Most of the
other
fun
fans.
stuff was either with other fans or like the volunteers and the
Immigrant
workers who are
workers.
helping out there. And I feel like that's so sad. You've had this opportunity to showcase your culture, your country, and you've just completely lost touch.
But they weren't interested.
Yeah, and I
We
feel
would
like
bump into them in a lift and they would look the other way or look on their phone.
Which I think shows that idea of how it was more the elites of Qatar and all this kind of official,
Yeah, like
rather
they
than an
weren't used
actual
to
country's
people coming in.
decision
Let's just
to welcome.
so again, Qatar is a unique place in the sense there's 300,000 Qatari locals, and there's about 2 million workers normally who cater to the needs of these 300,000, and all the wealth is concentrated with this 300K, right? Now, to give a perspective, like they mentioned, we love interacting with the locals, and there are great moments we've had. I have friends on social media till today from Brazil. I have friends from Russia. I mean, friends from South Africa in a sense, which was pre-social media era in a way. But from Qatar, every time you bumped into someone, there was just no curiosity from their side to interact. There was no desire from their side to kind of know where you're from or interact in any way or form. I've had to be physically restrained in South Africa and Brazil from buying a place there. And in Qatar, honestly, there's just no chance of me even going back. And as an aside, lots of conversations with people from different countries had the same kind of an impact in the sense they couldn't figure out the place. They hadn't fallen in love at all, as was the intention, and nobody wanted to come back. People were talking about how, well, if they flew Qatar Airways, maybe they would do a 1 or 2 day layover, but nothing beyond that. So, huge missed opportunity, I think, from FIFA, who I blame more for not standing up for the football fans, and from Qatar, whose idea of hospitality seems to be, well, this is us, these are our rules, we are inviting you, but A, B, C, D, E.
And if you want to have fun, you need to be very well.
Yes. So yeah, I think that's it from the Nagpals. Good World Cup, great football. No thanks to the Qataris, no thanks to FIFA. But yeah, we had fun nonetheless.
Great.
So,
Loads of
yeah.
fun with the games.
Let's go Argentina.
Love.
Argentina, Messi.
Just Argentina.
All right.
Go Messi.
Thank you.
Thank you.